OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says the remote work experiment was a mistake and it's over. Multiple tech companies and other large companies that are not inside the tech space are now speaking openly about the need to remove remote working, calling it not good for business. One of which is ChatGPT parent company OpenAI's CEO, who believes it hurts more than it helps. This is a really interesting article. I'm excited to go over it with you guys. Let's jump right into it. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman isn't averse to change. He helped kickstart the current AI race with chatbot ChatGPT. After all, threatening to upend multiple industries, but he still thinks startups are most effective when employees work together in an office. The idea of fully remote work becoming the norm has come and gone, he said this week at a fireside chat in San Francisco organized by the fintech company Stripe. I think definitely one of the tech industry's worst mistakes in a long time was that everybody could go full remote forever, and startups didn't need to be together in person, and there was going to be no loss of creativity, he told attendees. I would say that the experiment on that is over and the technology is not yet good enough that people can be full remote forever, particularly on startups. This is really interesting. He isn't alone in his assessment. Many CEOs have been demanding that remote employees spend more time in the office, among them Bob Iger at Disney, Howard Schultz at Starbucks, and Robert Thompson at News Corp. During the pandemic, remote work or hybrid work schedule was the only option for many office workers, and many grew to prefer it to being in the office every workday. I remember when even in our office, I worked in a different industry at the time during the pandemic, and it became this mostly remote position. However, I was very lucky in my role because my role consisted of a hybrid model already, given the nature of it. Now, my role was definitely affected like everyone else's in a different way, though. So my role was a hybrid, and this is the story for a lot of people. But it was hybrid because I spent a majority of my time in the field, as they would say, visiting other locations for clients. And that's what got affected the most, is that all of a sudden now my clients that I was trying to reach on behalf of the organization became absolutely unreachable. As many would know, especially in a sales position, when you're trying to reach clients on behalf of an organization, on behalf of yourself, if you're trying to reach them behind the wall of an email, a phone call, those kinds of things, it becomes near impossible most of the time. A lot of times, if you're going to make and meet new clients and be effective at it, a lot of people believe, and I would say it is the norm across multiple industries, that the best way to do that is in person. And so when that pandemic situation actually took full effect, our business was massively affected. Now, over time, it got a little bit better as people now adjusted to what they started calling the new norm, in the sense of now they started adjusting to the fact that multiple people that they needed to speak with and work with were now only reachable by email and phone call or Zoom call. But in that beginning period, it was like our business dropped off a cliff. Like there was no way you could survive in this role. But I digress. I do not believe in remote work for startups. Keith Rabos, a general partner at venture capital firm Founders Fund, told the Logan Bartlett Show last week, adding that neither he nor his firm would invest in a venture based on it. Wow. Younger workers, he noted, learn by osmosis in a way that requires in-person interaction, and supervisors discover hidden talent by watching them. Meanwhile, at the struggling Uber rival Lyft, new CEO David Risher, I don't know if that's how you say these guys' names, I might be butchering these names and I apologize if I am, ordered remote workers back to the office last week, one day after laying off more than 1,000 employees, or about 26% of the workforce. Employees will now have to come in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, with Tuesdays recommended. What? Okay. This is a quick side note. and this is a personal thought of mine. Don't play games with people. Don't do this kind of crap. What is Tuesdays recommended? What does that even mean? This is just my personal opinion, and this may not. I don't know. I really really dislike it when companies do this. Don't play games with people. Don't jerk people around. Okay, don't be like, we want you in here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and Tuesdays it's not required, but it's recommended. What does that even mean? Don't do that. Tell me what you want. Don't tell me stuff like that, because does that mean now you're going to create a culture where, if I show up Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, you guys will really like me, and then the days that I don't show up on Tuesdays, you're going to all secretly be like, oh, look, what's wrong with that guy? Like, this is crap. Don't do that with people. Be straightforward with people. I'm going to be honest, guys, and this may be completely off kilter, but this makes my blood boil when companies do this. I dislike that so much. I can't stand that at all. That makes me flip out. It's like, don't do this crap. Tell them what you want and be clear. Don't be like, Tuesdays are recommended. That's garbage. Sorry. That is hot garbage. I'm sorry. I can't help myself with that one. Many remote workers contend that working from home is just fine, and they are not eager to return to pre-pandemic office and commuting routines. In a Pew Research survey released last month, 56% of respondents said working from home helps them get work done and meet deadlines, while 37% said it neither helps nor hurts. But at least one CEO, James Clark of digital marketing firm ClearLink, worries employees might be secretly working multiple jobs while working remotely. Now, okay, let me just say something real quick here. I'll finish this last sentence. He also worries some might be freeing up time by using AI tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT and GPT-4, time that his company isn't utilizing. Okay, if this is happening, he says he worries employees might be secretly working multiple jobs while working remotely. My only question is, and this may be radical, and I know I'm even surprised at myself for thinking this way. Outside of a possible leak of sensitive data, sensitive information, if a staff member is working multiple jobs like this, if I had someone say something like this, which I've actually been in the room where I've seen director level say something similar to this when we started doing this full-on remote working, when it was just not just the sales staff, but the entire office. And I told them, as long as people don't leak private company information, is that really a problem? If you're not noticing a change in their work deadlines, as long as you're working your job and you're effective at it, as long as you're showing up when I need you to show up, as long as you're doing everything that I need you to do, and it's being done correctly and it's being done accurately, and you're being a team player, what business is it of mine that you do with your time that I'm not aware of? And I think even speaking on this other point, when they talked about, and I might be wrong on that. Actually, if I am wrong on that, or if there's something I'm not thinking about, let me know in the comment section below, because I'd really be interested. Maybe I'm missing something on that. And that's not something I'm completely sold on. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that this is a hill I'm willing to die on. I'm just wondering what, outside of potential leaks in the organization, what would be the reason that someone would be worried about this? Like, what difference of me is it? Like, if the guy was, or if a person was, working at my job during the day, and then at night they were delivering pizzas on the weekends and nights, who cares, right? So if they're saying, well, if they're working remotely, they're working multiple jobs. If they can do that and be effective at it and keep up with it, and they can, respect the integrity of working for us at the same time, more power to them. I'd be impressed. I'd be like, dang, maybe we're not utilizing this person's talents very, very well. Maybe this person is capable of a lot more, and maybe we need to look at what else we can do with them and offer them. I'm just saying. I might be crazy. Maybe I am crazy. I don't know. Maybe this whole thing has sent me to insanity. And then obviously he also worries that some people might be freeing up time by using AI tools. I mean, I don't see what the problem with that is. A lot of organizations are starting to utilize those tools, and they're starting to embrace them. So I don't understand why he would be worried that they're embracing them. Maybe it's like, listen, buddy, I think you're coming at this from the wrong angle. Mr. James, I think you need to focus more on, what your organization can do to begin utilizing those tools in a safe and effective manner, which we already know and have talked about companies that do utilize those tools in a safe and effective manner. But there are many executives of well-known companies and now calling for reverse and remote working and a return to the way things were before during the pandemic. That's starting to happen more and more. And this is interesting coming off of this article here when last week we just did a video recently, I believe it was last week, may have been the week before, talking about how a lot of organizations are embracing the 4-day work week or a remote week, or they're doing different things to change up the pace and attract talent and keep talent in their doors. But there are still large portions of surveyed employees saying it's not necessary. And can companies really force them back? That's really the question I have here. I mean, what will be the result if they start enforcing this and telling people that they need to come back and they're going to make it necessary? I mean, will people leave? And if they are trying to leave, can they even find other work? Like, would they be able to find work outside of what they're doing that would still offer them the same schedule they've fallen in love with? Because one thought is what does the bottom line say? Like, this is what I'm thinking in all of this. Is what does the bottom line say? Is it actually hurting profits and efficiency? In all honesty, because I'm not sold on either of this, it may be too early even to tell how this affects companies' profitability. We may be way too early in this to see if their efficiency and profitability is hurting. There are many very intelligent people that say that it really does hurt more than it helps. However, for thousands of years, I feel like, and this is just me thinking out loud, for thousands of years, people have worked from their homestead to survive. And on a personal note, I'm not really sure how cohesive the workplace really is. Because listen here, so Altman, this is OpenAI CEO, says, I feel pretty strongly that startups need a lot of in-person time, and the more fragile and nuanced and uncertain set of ideas are, the more time you need together in person. And I know that there's been a lot of people quoting a lot of psychological studies, a lot of studies from multiple science journals talking about how the in-person, like actually being around people, is important. And I'm understanding that. And I understand that that's something that should be talked about. I don't know if it's really necessary to be at a work situation and be around people. I don't know if being at work is the best example of being social with people, because I'm not, as someone who's worked in multiple different levels of a corporate setting, like I said before, I'm not really sold on how cohesive, and I'm using air quotes here, the workplace really is. Just on an anecdotal note, I've never engaged in really intense conversations or really socially engaging conversations, not for lack of interest. It's not like the conversations haven't existed, and it's not like I wasn't interested in having the conversations, but just to not be in danger of losing the job, or causing turmoil in the company, or risking having an HR situation. And I'm not talking about being inappropriate. I'm talking about just general conversations with people. And if you've worked corporate long enough, and you've worked in the corporate grind long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm saying. And so does that really mean we were cohesive or more cohesive being together and that it's better, or were we just submissive and being like almost programmed to be passive, where we couldn't really be honest with people and have general conversation with people? And for a lot of people, it's not that they don't like the people they work with, but they're not going to go hang out with them after work and embrace them and have them be a part of their lives. The family atmosphere doesn't exist in every organization. And to be honest with you, I don't think that that's a problem. I don't think that people need to have this like family cohesiveness and connectivity with their fellow workers or fellow employees in every organization that they work for. And I know that's something that a lot of people strive for, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that, that's not a good thing and that you shouldn't try to work for that. But what I am saying is that I don't judge an organization's effectiveness or if they're a good company to work for, because not everyone is going over to the CEO's house every weekend and having a beer and hanging out and eating a steak. That's not, I don't think that is a fair judgment. And a lot of the people that I've seen talk about how, oh, the remote work and working from home has been terrible for people. People are not social. And it's like, listen, bro, I don't know what planet you're living on, but I've never been social at work. That's never been something that I do and go into engaging and desiring that. I've worked for organizations that felt like families, and they allowed for that social atmosphere, and that was great. But I honestly didn't stay there because it was social, and didn't think it was any better than other jobs because it was social. I just thought, man, what a great culture here. And but I think if you've worked in the, like I said before, if you've worked in the corporate grind long enough, if you've been in workforce long enough, like you're used to both, and you can live in both. And it's not that you I hate working here, and it's like, hey man, I just hate working in general. It'd be great if I could not work and spend more time with my family, but obviously that's not the way of the world. So, and maybe I'm not the only one that feels that way. Let me know if I'm crazy. Let me know. Tell me in the comments section below. I'd be interested to hear what other people's opinions are on this. I think all of this is really interesting. Obviously, it says he knows a thing or two about that. He and fellow OpenAI co-founder Greg Brockman told the Possible podcast this week, they spent months trying to figure out what exactly their AI chatbot should be, ultimately deciding against specializing in one field such as law or medicine, and going instead for the broadest possible audience and letting that audience decide for itself how to use the technology. So he's talking about how being in person, he mentioned before, the more time you need together in person allowed them to work through the needs and what OpenAI or what ChatGPT should have been. And obviously it's proven successful. That OpenAI is now valued at nearly $30 billion. Well, they're valued at that. Obviously they're going to make a ton of money once they actually start being profitable. But I mean, that's the crazy thing about the whole Silicon Valley situation. But and CEOs everywhere are looking to capitalize on the productivity gains made possible by tools like ChatGPT and GPT-4. This is interesting. IBM CEO Arvind Krishna said this week his company will pause hiring for roles it thinks could be replaced with artificial intelligence in the coming years. He also said, while you might be just as productive working from home, your career does suffer if you work remotely. See, this is, I don't know. And then there's a link here. I may talk about this in another video because this video is already going really long, but that's another one. Like, what are you saying? Like, what do you mean my career will suffer if I work remotely? Does that mean you're not going to be looking to promote or give more work or more pay to people that choose to work remotely? It's like, this is getting ridiculous. I can't stand that. That one, and the Tuesdays is not required but recommended. It's like, don't play games with me. Okay, I'm a professional. Treat me like a professional. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. Don't tell me you recommend something or my career is going to suffer. Just tell me straight up what you want and what you're willing to pay for, and I will do it. Right? So I don't know. That's where it is. So, I'm not sold. I'm not dying on the hill of going remote forever, and I'm also not dying on the hill of getting rid of remote. I think whatever organizations decide to do, one thing they shouldn't do is play games with people like that. All that kind of stuff. Also saying things like working remotely all the time will not help one's career is not helpful as well. I don't think that that's very helpful, given there are many companies finding themselves in this position due to a lack of trust already. I also believe that, more organizations need to be sure that if they have staff in the office, I think this is part of this lack of trust. Like, if you're going to have people actually in the office, that they ensure the effectiveness of them being there, meaning no more room for pointless meetings that could have been said over an email. And I think that's probably where that earlier statistic comes from in the video, where they said 56 of respondents said working from home helps them get work done and meet deadlines. And I think a lot of them, if you were to break that down, and this is just anecdotal, but I think if you've worked I've said this a lot, if you've worked in this industry long enough, you probably would agree with me, is that the reason why 56% of the people are saying that is because they feel like they've been in pointless meetings and they have to suffer through them and sit there and not get work done. And so I think if companies are going to turn around now and say you need to get back to the office, my response would be, well, then you better be sure and make sure that if you're going to force me to be back in that office 5 days a week, that you become more effective at my time there. Because I think a lot of time spent there is pointless and useless in a lot of useless meetings. And I think that's where a lot of this animosity is coming from employees. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. I find it to be extremely interesting that essentially at this point you have a man who is the OpenAI CEO, so he's at the tip of the spear as far as innovation is concerned. Probably the most innovative product in the market right now coming from this man and his company, and he is calling for a return back to in-person work. I find that to be really interesting, and it obviously represents a struggle within the marketplace right now. What companies are asking their staff to do and what the staff is willing to do. And that's really what it comes down to. That's why I'm not sold on either of it. I'm not dying on any hill. It's like, look, at the end of the day, as someone who's been in leadership in a team, it's like I'm not saying it's fair or unfair. I'm just saying what can we realistically expect and ask of the staff to do? What's that breaking point where we've asked too much and now we're losing people? And is that even a risk? It's curious. Let me know. Comment section below. Appreciate you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one.